Hey everybody, I'm in Yuba City. You might be able to hear the traffic in the background. This is a big town and yeah, lots of cars. But I had to come to, well, I also went to Chico and Yuba City, and I had things I had to do, you know, grocery stores, Planet Fitness, all those type of things. And now I'm headed for the hills again, literally. Headed to Yellowstone. No. I'm not headed to Yellowstone. That's like, you know, 1,500 miles away. I'm headed to Yosemite. I've never been to Yosemite, so I'm pretty excited. I built it up quite a bit in my head, so I hope I won't be let down. I mean, I've seen all the pictures, so I'm pretty sure I won't be. But I've been to a lot of national parks lately, and the bar keeps getting higher and higher, so we'll see. We'll see how it stacks up. Anyways, I'm ready to get out of here. It is crowded and lots of traffic and noise, and looking forward to a nice peaceful spot in the National Forest tonight. Gonna be just a few miles outside of the park, and yeah, so let's get on the road. It's a pretty long drive. I already drove about an hour and a half, I think, today. And now I'm driving 2.5 more hours. Reason being, well, I just want to get there. But also the reason is that there's just not good options for camping in this whole part of the Central Valley. There are some Walmarts that are questionable. People say that it's not allowed, but they get away with it. I just don't want that knock in the middle of the night. It's not pleasant. And also there's some casinos, but what I've read is that some of those casinos they're either not allowing vans, camper vans. You have to be in a big RV or a semi, which makes no sense to me whatsoever. Or they're quite a ways out of the way. So I'm gonna just muscle through and do a 4+ hour drive today altogether, and yeah, Yosemite tomorrow. Chinese immigrants arrived by the thousands during the prime gold mining years of the 1850s. They helped build the railroads, worked in mining camps, and later worked on farms and ranches. Chinese Camp was home to 5,000 Chinese miners, in addition to as many Americans and Europeans. Chinese Camp was home to 5,000 Chinese miners, in addition to as many Americans and Europeans. Many of the Chinese immigrants were servants to Englishmen. The mines were rich with gold. A value of $2.5 million was removed from this area. The Chinese were pushed out of Sonora, located a few miles to the north, and settled in what would become Chinese Camp in 1849. The first post office and store opened in 1854. As the town grew, Chinese Camp became a transportation hub for stagecoach lines and express offices. This is the Chinese Camp store and garden and tavern. It's not open. I'm not sure if it's ever open. But you can use their washroom, but they ask for a donation. The town was composed of a store, hotels, 2 joss houses, Chinese temple of worship, blacksmith shop, church, school, bank, and Wells Fargo Express office, Masonic lodge, and cemetery. The gold lay just below the surface of the ground, but the work was hard because there was no water nearby. All the gold had to be hauled to the creek to be washed. Chinese worked the mines and were successful where other miners had given up. When they had an argument, instead of using guns, the men used pitchforks, rakes, and other mining tools as weapons. A few Chinese were killed and many wounded during their fights. None of the descendants of the original Chinese miners live in this rural town today, where the remaining buildings whisper their stories of glorious past. None of the descendants of the original Chinese miners live in this rural town today, where the remaining buildings whisper their stories of a glorious past. This was the general store and also the post office built in the late 1840s. It is completely abandoned now. Chinese camp today is but a fraction of what it once was. It is best described as a semi-occupied ghost town with trailers and some small ramshackle type houses spotted on the various streets in the town. What was once home to more than 5,000 Chinese miners and extracted $2.5 million in gold at its peak is now home to less than 150 people. Interestingly enough, there is not a single Chinese person or a person of Asian descent, for that matter, living in the town according to the latest census. Actually, no Chinese person has lived in the city since 1930, so perhaps the name of the town is the most ironic of all American towns. Thousands of visitors travel up this lonely road and head into Yosemite. Most of them barely notice the town which passes them with a blink of an eye. Maybe some are too afraid to enter the town, which is overrun by weeds and trees. Maybe they have heard the haunting stories and want nothing to do with it. In any case, the town has remained in many ways just as it was over 150 years ago. This house is famous, apparently for maybe a ghost that lives here. People say that they sometimes will see a young boy standing in the window upstairs. This is the St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church, built in 1854. And it's surrounded by graves. Very old graves, 1828. Being a Catholic church, I don't think any of the Chinese residents were buried here. All these people died in the 1800s. Does not look like they're holding any services in there. Probably not in the last couple of decades at least. In fact, I think the entire building is being held up by one chain, perhaps. Can you see way over there on that hill? I think that's another graveyard. I wonder if that's where the Chinese residents are buried. guys, I'm in Jamestown, California, and I'm about 50 miles, I think, or maybe a little more from Yosemite. This is going to be my resting spot, my camping spot for tonight. Hopefully it's kosher. It is just off the highway, but it's a small highway. There will be some road noise. I'm sure it'll quiet down after dark. And yeah, this is a vista point, and it does have a nice vista. Let me show you. So it's over a lake here, a lake that's significantly lower than it was, because you can see a line all the way around it. Looks like the water's like 20 feet lower than normal. California is a very dry place, but it's pretty here. These are the I guess the foothills of not the Cascades, but the Sierra Nevadas. Pretty. And it should have little information about the lake, but not so much. I'm gonna do a little time lapse for you, and we'll see if we get a good sunset. We should. There's plenty of clouds, and you can see plenty of smoke on the horizon. I did read that there are active fires in and around Yellowstone. Good morning, everybody. What a great spot to boondock. It's the Vista Point here. Let me show you how it's looking right now. Very pretty spot. There was an RV here when I got here. They spent the night. They're still here. And then last night, like another van and 2 automobiles also came in, and they all spent the night too. No problems. Very quiet here. Very dark. You could see the Milky Way, very prominent. It was awesome. This is on freecampsites.net. It's listed under, I think it's called Jamestown. Although Jamestown is on the map I looked, it's way over there. It's on free campsites. So if you are interested, if you're coming to Yosemite, this is a great spot.